All historical evidence lead to Jesus' death. Coptic scholar, show me. Show me, sir, anything outside the New Testament except with one small fragment from Peter, one small fragment that mentions the crucifixion of Jesus. What I'm telling you, ya Arabian girl, what I'm saying is that it is only the New Testament that mentions the crucifixion of Jesus. Tacitus relied on the New Testament. This is silly. Again, rasiete ex eventu. How silly?
No, what is silly is actually Gomerozdubar's criterion. Gomerozdubar claims that a historical document cannot be accepted if it's written ex eventu, or after the event. And I'm of course using ex eventu because Gomer's invention of reciente ex eventu doesn't even exist. But let's stop and analyze Gomerozdubar's argument and ask a simple question. What historical document ever written in the history of mankind has not been written ex eventu or after the event? Can you see how pointless Gomerozdubar's argument is? Any document describing a historical event, unless you were talking about prophecy, is written after the events that it describes. That's why it's called a historical document, since it describes a historical event that has already taken place. So if we would apply Gomerozdubar's argument to any historical document, we would have to reject every historical document ever written, even those so-called quote-unquote primary independent Christian documents outside of the New Testament that he appeals to. Second, how does Gomerozdubar know that Tacitus relied on the New Testament? Again, I doubt that Gomer has read anything from Tacitus. There is nothing in Tacitus' section in the Annals where he speaks of Christians that either speaks of anything of the New Testament documents or quotes them. So how does Gomer know that Tacitus read anything about the New Testament documents or even relied on them? But notice the startling admission. Gomerozdubar places the New Testament documents in the 1st century without even knowing it by claiming Tacitus relies on them. By claiming that the Nag Hammadi documents are primary Christian documents, he places the New Testament in an earlier time frame than the Nag Hammadi documents, since the Nag Hammadi documents quote from the New Testament documents, while the New Testament documents never quote the Nag Hammadi. This shows the reliance of the Nag Hammadi upon the New Testament documents. Simple logic dictates that if document A quotes from document B, that means that document B automatically predates document A that uses the quote from document B. Since that is the case here, why would Gomerozdubar think that the Nag Hammadi documents are even primary Christian documents to begin with? Or better yet, since it's perfectly obvious that they are not, why does he claim they are?
How silly. Christians are now relying to people who wrote on the paradigm of the New Testament. Don't be silly. Don't be silly. We're looking for alternate biographies of the life of Jesus written by Christians. Show us any crucifixion story in the entire vast volumes of the Nag Hammadi library. Show me any outside Christian literature of Christian movements that inducts to us a crucifixion story. Tacitus wasn't. It doesn't matter. Josephus wasn't Christian either. How silly our Christians are. Josephus wasn't Christian either. Yet he heard what the Christians were saying about Jesus and those Christians who relied on the New Testament. This is called rasieta ex eventu. Christians, please.
So wait a second. Gomer is saying that Josephus' sole source was the mouths of Christians? So let me get this straight. The Pharisee Josephus is going to write about this man called Yeshua because Christians claim that he was put to death by Rome, and other than that he has no other sources to work with? Remember, Josephus was writing Roman history for the Roman Empire. He wasn't writing for Vibe magazine, and he gullibly took an accusation from the mouths of Christians whose blood was cheap and who were at the bottom of society, and writes that accusation down as a testimony against the Roman Empire and against the Roman Emperor himself without any verification whatsoever from any other source? Who would make such a claim other than a person who is cornered and grasps at anything he can get his hands on to get himself out of the pickle that he is in? Any person who even thinks of raising this argument and gets the chance to think it through will immediately notice how untenable this argument actually is. But not Gomer. He actually thinks he just made a valid argument. But what evidence does he actually think he has? It's nothing more than a theory, and a bad theory at that.
Understand what we're speaking about. Huh? Jewish sources claim 6,000 crucifixions, sir. 6,000 Roman sources claim 6,000 crucifixions occurred during John Hyrcanus. During John Hyrcanus, we have 6,000 crucifixions. Okay? Jesus Christ had the easiest one, ladies and gentlemen. Jesus had an easy escape. He had the quickest drive-through version of a crucifixion than all of the crucifixion. You know, we have documents of Christians, of Romans that wrote about crucifixion process, Roman impalement. Literally, they tortured these people so badly that they would leave their bodies on there for weeks. There were bodies literally scraped off of the impalement sticks because they were just goo. The people just laid there, and Jesus had a he didn't even suffer at all.
He didn't even suffer at all? I just find it mind-boggling how people can make so light of crucifixion in the ancient Roman world, as if they are talking about eating nasty food or something. Gomerozdubar, Yeshua wasn't crucified during the reign of either John Hyrcanus I or John Hyrcanus II. John Hyrcanus I died in 104 BC, and John Hyrcanus II died between 40 and 30 BC. So, how Yeshua could have gotten the easiest crucifixion under John Hyrcanus is a question that Gomerozdubar needs to answer. And even if Yeshua had the easiest crucifixion, how does this take anything away from the testimony that he was crucified? How does this quote-unquote easy escape deny the fact that he died on the cross? As if it's a contest of who suffered the most. Anyone that has read anything about crucifixions knows that people who were crucified would support themselves with their legs and push themselves up to be able to breathe. Would they not use their legs to push themselves up, they would not be able to breathe and would die of asphyxiation. How long do you think someone could last without breathing? 6 hours of struggling on the cross to breathe, exhaustion, pain, and the results of the flogging, which people often don't even take into consideration to begin with, eventually would take their toll, and it wouldn't be long after he stopped supporting himself with his legs that he would have to go without breathing and eventually cause him to perish. I think that 6 hours would be more than sufficient for someone to die on a cross.
Jesus had the easiest crucifixion. Believe me, all those 6,000 crucifixions under John Hyrcanus, they would have cried to take the place for Jesus and have such an easy escape. Believe me, ladies and gentlemen, he had a 3-hour crucifixion. 3 hours? First off, Lucian wrote in asceticism Greek. He did not write in Koine Greek. He did not write in Koine Greek. Lucian wrote in the official Roman documentation, which was asceticism Greek. It was not Koine.
No, the crucifixion did not last 3 hours, it lasted 6 hours. Mark reports from the 3rd to the 9th hour, that makes 6 hours. And notice the logic of Gomerozdubar here. Since the document of Lucian of Samosata are written in Attic dialect, therefore his account is invalid. Can anyone see the validity of that claim? Although Attic was a dialect that is spoken in the ancient Roman society, it just can't be possible that actual historical events are written in the Attic dialect, because if it is possible, then my position collapses. Well, I'm sorry, sir, but that is not how we do either historical research or verify the truth of claims.
So the point is, show